God said He is always with you, but where was He when you were begging for help? If He truly loves His people, then why, at the darkest moment of your life, did He not come to save you? If those are questions that have quietly echoed in your heart, then perhaps the answer lies in this very letter, because this woman, at the very moment her heart stopped beating, encountered God, and He revealed to her truths that go far beyond human understanding, about the battle He's silently fighting to protect mankind. So what did He reveal to her? And more importantly, where has He been in your life all along? Stay with this until the end, because this story isn't just about life and death. It's about what lies behind suffering, and about a light that has always been present, though we've been blinded to it. Before we begin, please comment on your name and the city you live in, because through that, God's love can reach those silent warriors still fighting to escape their personal darkness and live by faith. And if this message stirs something in you, please consider clicking Super Thanks. Whatever you give, He will return to you many times over. Together, let's build a powerful community of faith by subscribing to this channel, where 20,000 hearts will share the love of God this very month. Now, listen closely to her testimony. My name is Catherine. I was living in my second marriage with Tom, the man I loved more than life itself. But those days were painfully hard. We lost everything after going bankrupt, to the point where we couldn't even afford food. When I entered this marriage, I already had 2 sons from my previous one. One had just turned a year old, the other was nearly 7. Then Tom and I had a son together, so I had 3 boys in total. We pooled our money into buying a business, but it failed miserably. We were drowning in debt, bankrupt, and everything felt like it was falling apart. Then tragedy struck. Mike, my 7-year-old son from the first marriage, was hit by a car and died. At that time, I had no faith in God or the afterlife. When my son died, it felt like I fell into a void. There was nothing to hold on to, no prayer, no hope. I remember those 12 hours of absolute agony like they were carved into my bones. I walked into my son's hospital room. His body was cold. I pulled a blanket over him and saw a tear clinging to the corner of his eye. I bent down and kissed him, whispering, "It's going to be okay, Mikey. Mummy's here," as if I could somehow make it all right. But then I collapsed, and everything after that is a blur. I only remember sitting in the car with Tom, completely shattered. I withdrew into myself, refused to leave the house, barely spoke, wouldn't let anyone visit. I isolated myself completely, drowning in grief, day after day, convinced my life was over. Tom tried to pull me out of it. He told me I had to go outside, that I had to keep living. But we fought constantly, especially with the crushing weight of financial pressure. Tom wasn't used to poverty, and now he was burdened with a family he hadn't asked for. We were on the verge of losing everything. The phone rang endlessly with creditors chasing us, and even though I loved Tom deeply, I felt like I had nothing left to live for. One day, Tom forced me to leave the house. We were already arguing by the front door, and it escalated once we got in the car. Things got worse. On the highway, I lost control. I lashed out at him, scratching, hitting him, in a whirlwind of emotion. He pulled over and shoved me away, hard. I tumbled over, dizzy and broken. I sank into the passenger seat and whispered, "I want to go home." But Tom didn't want to take me home. Somehow, God knows how, I managed to push Tom out of the car, slid into the driver's seat and drove off, leaving him behind on the road while he chased after me, screaming my name. I just wanted to be alone. But now, looking back, it was a foolish and dangerous thing to let a mentally unstable woman drive off like that. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal. The old car roared as if trying to swallow the fury boiling inside me. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, blurry beneath a downpour that felt like it was drowning the entire world. Tom's shouts still echoed in my head from behind. But I didn't care. I just wanted to run far away, From him, from the endless arguments, from the soul-crushing pain that came every time I thought about Mikey. Each turn of the tires was like a blade carving deeper into my heart. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Rain lashed against the windshield. The wipers screeched back and forth, useless against the thick sheets of water. The headlights barely lit a few feet ahead. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I had to escape. My hands clenched the steering wheel, knuckles pale and trembling. Mikey's face flashed before me, his eyes that tear frozen at the corner, and the way he just lay there, cold, never to wake up again. "I'm sorry, Mikey," I whispered, my tears mixing with the rain on my face. I couldn't see the road anymore. I couldn't see anything but pain. Suddenly the deafening blare of a truck horn tore through the storm. Blinding lights barreled toward me from the opposite lane like a raging beast. I jolted, my heart pounding, but it was too late. I turned the wheel, but the car didn't obey, tires slipping helplessly on the rain-soaked pavement. A shrieking sound echoed as the car spun out of control, whirling like a wounded animal. I screamed, whether from terror or rage I couldn't tell. My fists pounded the steering wheel, as if I could somehow stop the nightmare unfolding. Then everything happened in a flash. The car shot off the highway, tore through the metal guardrail like it was paper. I felt my body thrown forward, the seatbelt tightening across my chest like it was trying to crush my ribs. Metal crashed, glass shattered, and my own scream merged with the roar of the storm. The car tumbled down the cliff, flipping, rolling, swallowed by darkness. Each impact was an explosion inside my skull, like the world itself was breaking apart. Sky, then earth, then sky again, all spinning in a mad cyclone. My body slammed into the door. My head hit the glass. Pain exploded, sharp, hot like a blade through my skull. Blood streamed down my face, warm and thick, mixing with the rain. I wanted to call for Tom, for my sons, but my throat was choked. Only weak moans escaped. The car finally stopped, tilted on its side atop a rocky ledge, creaking like it was about to shatter. I hung upside down from the seatbelt, gasping, each breath a stab through my chest. The pain was so intense I couldn't feel my body anymore, only raw fear remained, primal, like a wounded animal caught in a trap. I don't want to die, I thought, but the thought was feeble, drowned out by the agony and the darkness closing in. Mikey's face appeared again, clearer than ever, like he was standing somewhere in the rain, watching me. "I'm sorry, Mikey," I mumbled, tears spilling and mixing with blood. I reached out for him, desperate to fix everything, but my arm was heavy, wouldn't move. Darkness surged, not the darkness of rain, but an endless abyss pulling me under. The sound of rain faded, my heartbeat slowed, and then nothing. No sound, just darkness, and me falling into the void. Darkness surrounded me, deep, cold and consuming, like a massive wave swallowing everything whole. The sound of rain, the shattering metal and the thudding of my heart inside my chest, all of it faded into nothingness, leaving behind a terrifying silence. Yet within that black void, flickers of light flashed across my vision, unclear in shape, like fragments of lost memories drifting by. A sharp white light, cold as truck headlights, burst and vanished. Then another beam appeared, warm like a candle in the night, yet faint, dissolving before I could reach it. They came and went without warning or meaning, leaving me confused and asking myself, where am I? Am I still alive? Suddenly, as if someone had pulled me out of the abyss, I became aware of a new scene. I was lying on a stretcher, being rushed down a hospital hallway. The wheels squeaked, machines beeped in frantic rhythms, and voices shouted, "Move! She's losing too much blood!" echoing all around me. I saw my body, or rather, a version of me, lying lifeless on the stretcher. My face was pale, dried blood matted my hair, and my eyes were shut tight, as if they would never open again. Beside the stretcher, Tom was running, gripping its edge, his face twisted in fear. He was shouting that he loved me, his voice hoarse and breaking apart. Every word he cried cut deep into my soul. Not because of pain, but because I could do nothing. I wanted to reach out and touch him, to wipe the tears from his face, but I couldn't. My body lay there, distant and motionless, while I, my true self, was somewhere else, floating, unreachable. Tom's voice grew fainter, like an echo from another world, and the hallway dimmed, as though I were being pulled away from the scene. Then, a strange sensation washed over me. I felt weightless, as if every burden, every pain, every fear, all the blood and broken bones had vanished. I rose upward, not with my feet, but like a mist, drifting through the air. I looked down and froze in awe. My body was still there, on the stretcher inside the emergency room. Doctors surrounded me, shouting orders, "Clear for defib, get the paddles now!" Tom stood in the corner, hands over his head, murmuring something, maybe a prayer, even though he never believed in any God. But I wasn't in that body anymore. I was floating above it, light, formless, like a shadow that didn't belong to the world below. Confusion filled my mind. I didn't feel pain anymore, didn't feel blood or broken bones, but I also didn't understand what I had become. I tried to reach for Tom, but my hand, or whatever resembled a hand, just passed through him like air. Am I dead? I asked myself, but the question just hovered in the air, unanswered. The flickers of light returned, sometimes cold white, sometimes warm gold, like doors cracking open, then closing. They didn't lead anywhere, just teased me, deepening my bewilderment. My soul floated, light yet lost, adrift between flickers of light and a vast directionless darkness. Then suddenly I felt myself moving, not walking but being carried by an invisible current. It was powerful yet gentle, like a river made of something sacred. The darkness around me began to thin, giving way to a tunnel that seemed endless. Its walls shimmered with faint light, like thousands of tiny stars trapped in black stone, flickering as if trying to tell a story I had yet to understand. I didn't need to breathe, but something inside me, perhaps my soul, throbbed with confusion and curiosity. The tunnel pulled me deeper, toward a place beyond anything I had ever imagined. Then I stopped, not because I wanted to, but because the tunnel itself seemed to will me to see something. To my left, in a pale moonlit glow, 4 figures appeared, 2 men, 2 women, standing in silence, yet their presence radiated strength, like a fire warming me in the cold of night. Their faces bore deep concern, as if they knew I had just escaped a terrifying abyss, but their eyes were filled with compassion, seeing through every wound I'd ever carried. I felt them, truly felt them, as if they had been waiting for me for a very long time, not to judge me. One of the women, with silver hair falling around her face, stepped forward. Her eyes were gentle yet unwavering, like the mother I never had. She reached out a hand, not touching me, yet the gesture felt like an invisible embrace, wrapping around my lost and shattered soul. A voice rose, not from her mouth, but from deep within my mind, clear and warm. "Do not be afraid, Cat. You are not alone." That single phrase swept away the confusion like a wind scattering fog, and I wanted to weep, though I had no tears left. I looked at her, then at the other 3, searching for a trace of familiarity. Who were they? My ancestors? Angels? Or figments of a broken mind grasping for meaning? I searched the hazy light for Mikey's face, hoping to see his smile, his sparkling eyes from when he was alive. I just wanted to see him one more time, to tell him I was sorry, that I loved him more than anything. But he wasn't there. That emptiness pierced my soul like a blade. I turned to the woman, and again her voice came gentle but firm. "Your son is in a safe place, Cat. You must keep going." Her words didn't erase the pain, but they lit a small candle in a corner of my darkness. Mikey wasn't here, but he wasn't lost. He was somewhere, protected. And that thought gave me the strength to keep breathing, if only in spirit. She gestured toward the air, and fleeting images began to appear, unclear but just vivid enough for me to recognize. I saw myself as a little girl, curled in a corner, shielding myself from my father's blows. One of the four figures stood nearby, watching with sorrow, unable to interfere, but deeply present. Then I saw myself wailing beside Mikey's body, and another figure knelt beside me, whispering something I hadn't heard at the time. I saw myself, in those long days of isolation, drowning in grief. And all four of them were there, unseen but near, walking with me through every nightmare. They weren't God, but they were sent by Him, messengers, guides, quiet signs of His mercy, reminders that I had never truly been alone, even when the world felt like it had abandoned me. I looked at them, and a strange feeling filled my chest. Not joy, but a deep comfort, like a sacred hush after a long cry. "Who are you?" I asked, though I wasn't even sure I had spoken aloud. The silver-hazed woman smiled, a smile soft as moonlight, and said, "We are the ones sent to guide you. God has never forsaken you, Cat, even when you turned away from Him." Her words flowed through me like a healing river, washing away some of the agony of losing Mikey, the fury I had toward Tom, and the despair that had driven me off the edge. I wanted to stay, I wanted to ask more, but the tunnel around me began to tremble, like a reminder that my journey was not yet over. I nodded, unsure if I truly did, but the current took me once more, carrying me with a newfound peace. Wherever I was going, I would never be alone again. The tunnel trembled, as if it were ready to release me from its invisible embrace. The darkness dissolved and a brilliant light surged forward, not just bright but alive, like an ocean of flowing light, shimmering with colors I had never seen before. Gold as radiant as the sun, silver as pure as moonlight, emerald green as deep as the heart of the sea. It didn't burn. Instead, it wrapped around me, warm like the embrace of a mother I never knew. I felt small, fragile, yet unconditionally loved, as if the entire universe had opened its heart to receive me. But then, a horrifying noise erupted. Like a freight train roaring through my soul, an invisible cord pierced through my chest, tugging violently, making me stagger within the light. A cold thought rose, like a whisper from the darkness I had once fallen into. There is no God, only nothingness. That thought was sharp like a blade, but it shattered instantly. A presence appeared, not a face, but a being of light, towering like a mountain, yet gentle as a spring breeze. The light that radiated from him pierced through me, as if he could see every mistake, every curse I had ever uttered in denying him. I trembled, not out of fear, but because I knew, with absolute certainty, that God exists, that He had always been there even when I had turned my back on Him. The light shifted, and a vision unfolded before me, as vivid as a painting crafted from pure light. I saw myself, not the cat of now, but the cat of the past, a little girl huddled in a corner, muttering curses at God as her father's blows rained down, a mother wailing beside Mikey's body, screaming that God was a liar, a desperate wife in the days of bankruptcy, whispering that no God could possibly save her. Each moment revealed a forked path, one leading into a deep darkness where I drowned in hatred and denial, the other into light, where love and faith waited. I realized that every curse, every denial was a choice, and I had chosen the path of darkness, not because God had forced me there, but because I had walked it myself. And I saw others, thousands of unfamiliar faces, from starving children to adults swallowed by despair. They stood at the same crossroads I had, each facing their own choice, love or hatred, trust or denial. Some stepped into the darkness, their faces fading into nothingness. Others turned back toward the light, and that light embraced them, just as it was embracing me now. I felt a pain that tore through my soul, not for myself, but for the lost ones, for the truth that I too had once been lost. And yet, at the same time, a spark of hope ignited within me, like a small flame rising. I realized that though I had chosen wrongly, God had not punished me, nor forced my hand. He had simply waited, arms open wide for me to choose to return. A voice resounded, not from outside, but from deep within my soul, gentle yet majestic. "You always have the power to choose, Cat." That voice flowed through me like a stream of light, washing away guilt and fear. I said nothing aloud, but my soul answered, not with words, but with a silent decision. I wanted to choose him. I wanted to walk into the light, even though my past was filled with mistakes. The light flared, as if it accepted the invisible promise I had made, and I felt myself being lifted, gently, closer to a place where all pain dissolved. My soul trembled, not because I had arrived, but because I knew I had chosen rightly, and God was waiting for me, just as he had always waited. Suddenly the space around me shifted, like a thin veil pulling back to reveal fragments of lives, not mine, but of other souls. I didn't see my own memories, not the lost days or the suffering that once imprisoned me. Instead, I saw them, people I had never met. Yet their pain touched my soul like fire. I saw a mother standing by a riverbank, screaming in anguish as her child was swept away in the flood. Her pain was like a sharp blade, cutting into me, making me want to turn away. But the light of God was quietly present beside her, not erasing the waters, but waiting. Through the tears, she looked up and found a faint light, and I saw her walk away, carrying her sorrow but also carrying hope, building a home for other orphaned children. Suffering didn't destroy her, it awakened her, leading her to him. The image changed, and I saw a warrior, armor soaked in blood, standing in the middle of a battlefield shrouded in smoke and flames. He roared, not out of triumph, but from the agony of losing his brothers, from the pain he had inflicted with his own hands. His soul was buried in darkness, but God's light remained. Patient, like a small flame amidst the storm, through many nights of regret he knelt, begging for forgiveness, and I saw him lay down his sword, becoming a healer for the wounds of war. Suffering was not punishment, it was the fire that forged him, calling him home. Then I saw a wanderer in tattered clothes, dragging his feet through cold streets, forgotten by the world. His eyes were empty, as though his soul had died long ago. But in the hunger and desperation, a small moment occurred, a stranger's hand offering him a bit of food, and God's light flickered, faint, but enough to make him lift his head. I saw him rise, not to wander, but to help others without homes, bringing them the same warmth he had once received. Suffering became a doorway, leading him from darkness into light. These lives, so different yet so alike, appeared like flames burning within my mind. I realized suffering was not the end, but a tool in God's hand, a fire that consumes what is false, so the soul can awaken. Some people fell, letting the pain devour them, but others, through tears and despair, found his light, just as I had. Suffering wasn't punishment, but an invitation, an opportunity to return to the boundless love of God. His voice echoed, gentle yet strong, like a breeze filled with life. Suffering is the fire that awakens the soul. That sentence flowed through me like a stream of light, lighting up a new truth inside me. My soul trembled, no longer confused, but filled with faith. I understood that God does not cause suffering, but he uses it to call us back, to help us see the light within the darkness. The realm of light began to fade, and I felt myself being pulled, not into darkness, but toward a new place, carrying with me this lesson. Suffering is the doorway, and God is always standing there, waiting for me to walk through. The tunnel trembled, and I felt myself being pulled backward, faster than lightning, through walls that shimmered like starlight. But instead of returning to my body immediately, the light shifted, as if a curtain was parting before a grand stage. A vision appeared, vivid and terrifying, as though I was staring straight into the broken heart of the world. I saw radiant cities, now crumbling under smoke and fire. Streets were buried in ash, and faces twisted in anguish, starving children with empty eyes, families torn apart, adults screaming in rage and despair. A deep division had spread everywhere. People turned away from one another, indifferent to the pain of their fellow human beings. A heart-wrenching sorrow welled up inside me, not because I was suffering, but because I realized humanity was drowning in darkness, not a physical shadow, but the collapse of faith and compassion. And then I saw the future. A prophecy so dreadful I wanted to turn away, but God's light held me there, compelling me to witness. A massive darkness covered the earth like a storm of hatred, swallowing every glimmer of hope. I saw firestorms devouring regions, cities collapsing in chaos, and millions standing in the dark, their eyes hollow, as though their souls had been stolen. Something terrible was coming. Not the end of the world, but the climax of humanity's wrong choices. Choices I myself had once contributed to, when I denied God, when I drove off a cliff in despair. War was no longer just fought with weapons. It spread through hatred like a plague, tearing through the heart of the world. I wanted to weep, but my soul could only tremble, torn between horror and grief. Then, in the suffocating darkness, a small light appeared, faint but resilient, like a candle standing strong against the wind. Tiny, glimmering sparks began to rise across the earth, small but unyielding, like stars breaking through the heavy night sky. I realized they were people, souls like mine, once lost, but who had found the light of God through pain, through moments of hopelessness. The four figures I had met in the tunnel, 2 men and 2 women, reappeared in the vision, quietly standing beside those suffering souls. They said nothing, but their eyes were filled with compassion, just as they had once looked upon me, whispering silent comfort. I realized they were signs from God, guides who never abandoned humanity, even in its darkest hours. Through them, through those flickers of light, the love of God was calling his children home, just as he had called me back when I lay on that stretcher, suspended between life and death. Then a voice rang out, gentle yet powerful, like a river of light flowing through my soul. "Cat, you will carry my light into the world." That voice wasn't a command. It was a flame igniting in my heart, entrusting me with a mission. Not to judge, but to awaken faith, to help the lost find their way back to God. The radiant light of God and the shimmering tunnel walls began to fade, like a dream dissolving into reality. A surge of power pulled me back, not into the abyss, but into a noisy, cold place filled with the scent of disinfectant. I opened my eyes. The piercing white light of the hospital lamp stabbed at me, and the beeping of the monitors rang out like a repeating song. Tom's voice, hoarse and trembling, broke through the fog in my mind. "Cat, you're awake, thank God." I wanted to speak, to cry out, but my dry throat only managed a whisper. God is real. God is real. My soul was still trembling from the vision of the shattered world, the sparks of hope, and the mission he had given me. The days that followed passed in a haze of medication and pain. My body was weak, covered in bruises and bandages, but my heart was ablaze. I told Tom about the light, the 4 figures, the abyss, and God's words, that I had to help humanity return to him. He listened without judgment, though I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "Cat, you nearly died," he said softly with concern. "Just rest for now." But I couldn't rest. The fire inside me was too strong, pushing me to speak, to rise, to act. One night, lying beside Tom in our small apartment, I had a vivid dream. I saw myself standing inside a car dealership, not as an employee like before, but as a leader, bringing honesty and compassion into an industry full of schemes. When I woke up, my heart was pounding as if God had whispered through that dream. "Tom, I have to start a business," I said firmly. He looked at me, half smiling, half worried. "You're crazy, Cat. We don't have any money." But I didn't waver. I could feel God's light guiding me, just as He had pulled me from the depths. I began with small, difficult steps. I found a little plot of land on the outskirts of town, secured a loan from the bank despite their skeptical stares. I faced people who laughed at my idea. A woman fresh out of a near-death crash, trying to do something unheard of in the car industry, putting customer satisfaction above profit. I thought about writing my story, not just keeping it in my heart, but putting it down on paper, and something within urged me to begin by sending a letter to Eternal Bible Stories. By now you probably understand where God has been all along in our lives, but still some of you might wonder, why do so many people encounter angels or witness some form of divine light, while I never have? The truth is, many of our listeners have shared a common question. Why is it that they also pray, their lives have faced many hardships, even accidents, yet they've never had a near-death experience or even a fleeting encounter with a saving angel? Could it be that God chooses some and leaves others behind? If you've ever silently held that question in your heart, or carried doubts you've never dared to speak, leave a comment below, because sometimes that simple act may be the very door through which you receive an answer you never imagined. And today, you will hear the letter of a woman who once believed God was silent with her, until the day she had an accident. Her soul was pulled into a realm far beyond the concepts of time and space. There she encountered a sacred being, an angel who carried the answer she had been quietly searching for her entire life. Stay until the end, because what she was shown may lead you to reflect deeply on your own journey of faith. Welcome to Eternal Bible Stories, where true near-death experiences are shared to awaken faith and illuminate the soul. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, and don't forget to leave your name and the city you're watching from so we can pray for you. Now, listen closely to her testimony. My name is Pony. I live in a quiet little town called Maple Hill, nestled between the rolling green hills and ancient maple forests of Pennsylvania, and this is the most unforgettable experience of my 68 years of life. It was supposed to be just another beautiful spring morning in April. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom, and I was driving to my grandson Tim's 5th birthday party. I remember checking the rear-view mirror to make sure the birthday cake was still sitting perfectly inside the box on the back seat. The radio was playing one of the old hymns I used to sing in church when I was a little girl. I hummed along with a smile, my heart full of gratitude for still being able to be part of these precious family moments, to witness my grandchildren growing up day by day. That happiness made me completely miss the truck speeding toward me. It came rushing from the right side of the intersection, far too fast, and in that moment, in the blink of an eye, everything shattered like glass in my hands. The last thing I remember before everything changed was the screeching of tires and the sensation of my car spinning out of control. Then suddenly everything became silent. Not the kind of quiet you experience in a peaceful room, but a different kind of stillness, as if sound itself had never existed. I slowly became aware that I was no longer inside my body. There was no more heaviness, no more pain or confinement like I had known in life. Instead, there was an indescribable sense of relief, as if I had finally removed a pair of tight shoes I'd been wearing all my life. Every movement felt smooth and effortless, as though I were gliding through space without the need for muscles or breath. I didn't see my hands or my body as I once knew them, but I was still very much alive, completely conscious and aware of every detail around me. Everything was unusually quiet. There was no wind, no traffic, no familiar noise at all. But the silence didn't frighten me. It felt like standing inside an empty cathedral, where everything is so sacred and still that you don't even dare to breathe too loudly. Light surrounded me like a warm, living ocean. It didn't blind me, but instead it was gentle and full of life. The more I immersed myself in that light, the more I sensed something, or rather someone, drawing near. Not with footsteps, not with any physical form, but with a holiness so pure that it silenced everything inside me. I didn't see his face, but I sensed it was the Lord. My soul recognized him the way a child instantly knows its mother's embrace in a crowd. As I tried to grasp the meaning of where I was and waited for him to reach out his hand to me, a strange feeling slowly arose within me, as if I was no longer alone. I began to sense a presence right beside me, not something I could touch or hear in the usual way, but something deeper, something that transcended all the physical senses I had ever known. When I directed my attention toward it, though not by physically turning, as my body no longer seemed bound by earthly limitations, I encountered a sight that stirred my heart. It was a being that I can only describe using the most beautiful words I know, a creature of light, radiant and pure, as if woven from the gentlest rays of the universe. But this was unlike any angel or messenger I had ever imagined from fairy tales or pictured while listening to childhood hymns. This being carried a powerful, profound presence, as if it were part of the very essence of life itself, and, more wondrously, it seemed able to see straight into my soul. It knew every thought, every feeling, every question in my mind, even before I could form them into words, a connection far beyond language, as if my mind had merged with a higher intelligence. Connie, the being spoke, not with a voice echoing through the air like human speech, but more like a pure stream of thought flowing directly into the depths of my consciousness, clear and warm, carrying with it an indescribable comfort. Always by my side? But why had I never seen it before? I wondered silently. Yet before this being, it was as though every thought I had was laid bare. You wonder why some people see us and others do not, the being of light said, gently yet with a resonance that felt like each word touched the deepest part of my soul. Its voice wasn't accusatory, nor was it interrogative. It felt like an invitation, as if a door to an unseen realm was being opened before me, leading to a question I had long avoided or never had the courage to face. At that moment, I wasn't standing or lying down. I was floating in a space without gravity, without direction, yet full of presence. And in that majestic silence, I suddenly realized that I had never truly asked myself that question. Why do some people see angels, experience miracles, while others, like me, live a quiet life of faith without any clear supernatural sign? But when that question was spoken aloud by the being of light, it was like a key unlocking a door that had been shut in my soul for decades. Memories I thought were buried somewhere in my mind came rushing back, piece by piece, in vivid detail. I remembered conversations with friends, with loved ones, about the experiences they had shared, the miraculous light that appeared beside their mother's hospital bed, a mysterious whisper in the middle of the night when they were about to give up everything, or an invisible force that pulled them back from the edge of death. And then I thought about myself, about the nights I prayed alone in tears but only heard the wind blowing through the window, about the days I knelt in church, yearning for a touch, a sign, even just a passing breeze or a strange light, but all there was silence. No supernatural image, no voice from heaven, only a smoldering faith, smoldering to the point that even I sometimes wasn't sure how much of it I still held on to. I began to wonder, had I been missing something? Was I not good enough? Not faithful enough? Or was there something in me that made me unworthy to see what others had seen? Suddenly I understood that this wasn't just a passing question, but a question that had silently grown within me my entire life. Why are some people granted deep spiritual experiences, clear encounters with the invisible realm, while others, despite their belief or longing, seem to be left in silence? Why do some get to see angels standing by their bedside, carrying light and peace in their final moments, while others pass away alone, without any sign from the other side to soothe their fear? That question, now stirred by the being of light, didn't just stop at curiosity. It became a burning flame within me, an intense need to understand this mysterious difference among people, not to judge or compare, but to discover the deeper meaning behind it. And as I stood before that being of light, I felt that the answer was not meant for me alone, but was part of a greater truth, a truth I was about to be led to uncover. What happened next went far beyond anything I had ever imagined. The being of light, my guiding angel, raised its hand as if signaling, and immediately we began to move through what I can only describe as layers of spiritual reality. The space around me seemed to dissolve, replaced by mystical scenes, each layer unveiling a profound truth about the nature of the soul and its ability to perceive the invisible world. The first layer appeared like a massive cosmic tapestry, woven with billions of small, shimmering lights. They weren't stars, but rather living, moving points of light, and they seemed to possess their own awareness. "These are souls," the angel communicated, not through words, but through deep, intuitive understanding. Each soul vibrates at a unique frequency, like notes in an eternal symphony. I was stunned to realize some of these lights flared brightly as they neared regions filled with spiritual presence, almost as if they were being activated by a divine source of energy. Others remained dim, showing no change. The angel helped me understand that this wasn't because one soul was better than another, but rather a matter of readiness and timing in each soul's spiritual journey. Every soul has its own rhythm for growth, and no one is left behind. "Look more closely," the angel said. The voice didn't echo as sound, but instead flowed like a stream into the depths of my spirit. Immediately the scene around me shifted. I no longer sensed time as I had on earth. There was no before or after. I felt as if I were standing outside of time itself, in a place where moments from many different lives unfolded all at once, like overlapping screens blending together yet still perfectly distinct in every detail. I saw a young mother kneeling in her small old kitchen. The kitchen had stained walls and a dim yellow light, but it was full of the warmth of family. She knelt on the hard tile floor, her hands clenched tightly, eyes shut, praying with a desperation and earnestness that pierced the air. Beside her was a cradle where her little child lay curled up, pale from a high fever. The mother didn't know that surrounding her at that very moment was a circle of angels, beings of light, silently standing with their wings extended. They didn't speak, they didn't intervene immediately, but their presence filled the room like a sacred mist, radiating peace, protection, and a love far beyond anything I had ever known. I could feel their energy, a gentle yet unwavering breeze encircling the mother, keeping her faith from crumbling, even as a storm raged inside her heart. Then the image faded and shifted to another scene. This time, a quiet room where an elderly man was lying on a hospital bed. The afternoon light streamed through a small window, falling gently across his face. Everything was still. No more machines, no more sounds from nurses or doctors. Just him, alone. But he was not truly alone. I could clearly see his eyes open wide, not in fear, but in profound awe. In those aged eyes was a strange joy, as if he had just seen something he had waited for his entire life. Before him the beings of light appeared, not with sharp human forms, but radiating a pure beauty, like living columns of light smiling at him. They didn't need to speak. Their eyes and gestures said it all. "We have come to take you home." One of them extended a hand, and I saw the elderly man struggle to lift his own to meet it, trembling from weakness, yet filled with determination. It was not a handshake between strangers. It was a reunion between a soul and heaven. In that moment, I understood something profound. Death. The very thing humans fear most, for those who trust in the Lord, is actually the doorway to the most beautiful return. I couldn't take my eyes off those two images, the praying woman and the dying man, and I felt the presence of God in both, a presence that wasn't loud, wasn't forceful, but filled with power and love. At that moment I began to understand. The moments that seem most private, most lonely to us as human beings, are often the moments heaven is closest, but we don't always see it. Not because heaven is absent, but because our spiritual eyes are not yet ready to open. And in both of those scenes, I saw one thing clearly. Faith, no matter how small, can draw heaven near. I understood that some people haven't seen it yet because their souls are not yet strong enough to receive the full truth. Just like a flower needs time to bloom, the soul needs time to open to the light, and when the right moment comes, God will open their eyes. At the right time, in the right way, and always with perfect love. During the journey through the layers of spiritual reality, I was brought to a revelation that deeply moved my heart. A truth that has always existed around us, yet most of us never realize. It was the unceasing presence of angels and spiritual beings. Those who serve God in the work of protecting, guiding, and uplifting humanity every second, every minute. I was shown countless life moments happening simultaneously. One person was driving in heavy rain, anxious about an important appointment. Another was standing outside a cancer patient's room, trembling at the news. And others, sitting in darkness, alone, empty. No matter where they were, whether they believed or not, I saw the angels beside them. Some stood like guards. Some gently laid a hand on a human shoulder to bring peace. Others seemed to whisper something into their minds, words of encouragement that couldn't be heard with the ears but touched the soul. Then the being of light led me to a sacred scene. A middle-aged woman was crying, her head resting on a table, whispering a faint prayer for her wayward son. Surrounding her were 3 angels, each placing a hand on her, interceding with her, and the gentle light from them seemed to be healing her despair itself. In that moment I realized, not a single prayer is ever forgotten. The being of light paused, then softly said, "Remember Job." Instantly I understood. Job, the righteous man, had no idea of the fierce spiritual battle taking place in the heavenly realms on his behalf. In the same way, millions of people today are walking through spiritual battles, but they are not alone. Angels have been and are fighting for them, needing no thanks, no recognition. I was shown a multitude of cries for help, whispers in the middle of the night, sobs too broken for words, eyes lifted toward heaven in desperation. All of them were received in the spiritual realm. These pleas did not vanish into nothingness. They became light, creating ripples that reached the angels and activated divine actions in ways we cannot see or fully comprehend. What brought me to tears, though not in the physical sense, was when I was shown the guardian angels. No longer a vague concept or blind belief. I witnessed them, truly existing, truly near. Each person has at least one such angel, specially assigned from the moment they are born. These angels know us better than we know ourselves, and they work tirelessly, day and night, guiding us toward the glorious destiny God has prepared. I saw how they worked through what we often call gut feeling or intuition. A man stood hesitantly on the side of the street, about to step off the curb while the light was still red. A voiceless message echoed in his mind, "Wait a little longer." He stopped, and just seconds later a car sped by at a reckless pace. His life was saved, without him ever realizing he had just been divinely guided. Guardian angels do not force. They never interfere with human free will, but they warn, remind, and gently nudge. And if we learn to listen to those small urgings, even if they seem like vague feelings, our lives will begin to change. I was also shown how angels coordinate with one another like a mighty team. It's not just individual guardian angels, but also other angels sent specifically for certain moments. When a person is undergoing a great trial, when they pray with desperation, or when they're about to take a pivotal step in their spiritual journey. These angels, like silent companions, help open sacred doors that lead to healing, awakening, and transformation. I stood silently amid that vision, realizing that most of us go through our entire lives without ever knowing just how deeply we've been loved and protected. But whether we realize it or not, the angels keep working without ceasing, because the love of God is not dependent on our awareness. The being then showed me something about the power of prayer that left me utterly amazed. I saw that every sincere prayer created ripples in the spiritual realm, like dropping a stone into a still pond. These ripples interacted with other prayers and with God's divine plan in ways far beyond human imagination, forming a breathtaking symphony of divine activity. I saw prayers as waves of light emanating from the hearts of people on earth, rising upward and creating swirling, ever-moving patterns in the spiritual skies. Some prayers were faint, like a whisper, others thundered like a roar, but all of them left an imprint. They never disappeared. Every sincere prayer, no matter how small, sent out spiritual ripples. Just like when you toss a pebble into calm water, the ripples expand, intersecting, resonating with other prayers, forming a divine harmony that only God can orchestrate. I was shown that sometimes when we believe our prayers have been ignored, in truth they are being heard and answered, just in a way our earthly eyes cannot yet see, or our hearts are not yet ready to comprehend. The being spoke to me, not with words, but with a profound transfer of understanding. God's timing is perfect. His way of responding is precise, even when it does not align with human expectation. One of the most profound revelations came when I was shown that our ability to perceive angels and spiritual reality is often connected to our willingness to trust without needing to see. The being showed me that faith itself creates a kind of spiritual receptor within our soul, making us more able to perceive spiritual realities when they are revealed to us. I was then shown something about spiritual warfare that gave me a new understanding of why some people may be prevented from seeing angels. Sometimes, I learned, spiritual battles are being fought on our behalf that we are not meant to see, so that our peace may be protected. The being showed me how the angels work tirelessly to shield us from spiritual attacks that we aren't even aware of. Like loyal soldiers, they stand guard for us, pushing back dangers we may never even know existed. I was shown that our guardian angels sometimes work through other people to help us. The person who appears at just the right moment, with exactly the right words or help, I came to understand, is often responding to the subtle guidance of their own guardian angel to meet our need. The being explained that this is why kindness to strangers is so important. We never know when we might be entertaining angels without realizing it, or when we ourselves might be used as an instrument of an angel to help someone else. I was then shown something about the role of angels in our death that moved me deeply. No one, I learned, ever dies alone. Even when no other person is present, the angels are always there, ready to bring God's children home. The being showed me how these angels work to comfort both the dying and their loved ones, often without anyone realizing they're there. They serve souls on both sides of the veil of death, helping to ease the transition for everyone involved. I was shown that angels sometimes work through our memory, bringing to mind the exact scripture, song, or word of encouragement we need in the moment. These are not just random memories, but carefully arranged moments of spiritual support. The being explained that this is why it's so important to fill our minds with good things. They become the storehouse from which angels can draw to strengthen and uplift us in times of need. I was then shown why some people have more vivid spiritual experiences than others. It is not because they are more special or more loved by God. Rather, these experiences are given as gifts, not just for the individual, but for the benefit of others. Some people are chosen to be witnesses, to share their experiences and strengthen the faith of others. The being explained that sharing these experiences carries a great responsibility. I understood that it is not meant to prove anything, but to bring hope and point to a greater truth about God's love and presence in everyone's life. The being then showed me something that helped me understand why some people have near-death experiences while others do not. I saw that these experiences are carefully arranged for specific purposes within God's grand design. Some people are given these experiences to share them with others, some to change their own lives, and some to bring comfort to those grieving the loss of a loved one. But what truly amazed me was seeing that each person's journey is uniquely designed to draw them closer to God in the way that is best for them. Some need dramatic experiences, while others grow through steady, quiet faith. No path is better than another. They are simply different routes to the same destination. The being explained that this is why some people see different things during their near-death experiences. Each person is shown what they need to see and what they are able to process at that specific point in their spiritual journey. All of it is part of God's perfect plan for each individual soul. I was then shown something about the timing of spiritual experiences that helped me understand why some people seem to have more experiences than others. Each person's spiritual journey, I learned, has its own perfect timing, arranged by God's wisdom for their greatest good. The being showed me that sometimes what we perceive as a lack of spiritual experience is actually a gift, a season designed to strengthen our faith through trust rather than. These periods that may feel like spiritual silence are in fact times of deep inner growth. I was shown how our relationship with God influences our ability to perceive angels and other spiritual realities. The closer we draw to God through prayer, worship, and obedience, the more naturally we become able to perceive spiritual realities when they are revealed to us. The being explained that this is why some people seem to have a natural sensitivity to the spiritual realm. They have cultivated this ability through a consistent walk with God, often without even realizing it. Just as my mind was still overflowing with the wonders that had just been revealed, I felt an invisible force, not forceful, but undeniably clear, pulling me away from that realm of light. I didn't want to leave. Every thread of light there seemed to contain knowledge, love, and the true essence of life in a way I had never known before. But deep down I knew that my time there had come to an end. The being of light, my companion, my teacher, and my guide throughout the journey, looked at me with eyes as gentle as a father's and said, "Remember, Pony, what you have seen is not just for you. Share it with others, but remember that the journey towards spiritual vision is unique for each soul. Trust God's timing." Those words felt etched into my heart, becoming a mission I could never refuse. Then suddenly I was pulled back. There was a jolt, not painful but heavy, as my soul re-entered my body. I opened my eyes and found myself lying in a hospital room, surrounded by medical equipment, the steady beeping of monitors, and the stunned faces of doctors and nurses. One of them said, "We can't believe this. You were without a heartbeat for nearly 9 minutes. No brain damage, no coma, nothing at all." What amazed me even more was that I remembered everything I had seen, every scene, every word, every feeling. Nothing had faded. 4 years have passed since that fateful day. I still remember the moment I arrived at my grandson Tim's birthday party, even though I was a little late. But the boy had waited patiently for me. He told everyone to wait until I got there. None of them knew that I had just returned from a journey beyond the veil of life and death, carrying a message, not to boast, but to awaken. So Pony's letter comes to an end. You see, whether we can see them or not, angels are always working in our lives. Some of us are given the ability to see them for specific purposes in God's plan, while others are called to walk by faith, not by sight. No path is better than the other. They are simply different ways in which God works in our lives. The most important thing I learned is that God's love touches each one of us, whether we can see the angels He sends or not. Every person is precious to Him, and He works in every life in the way that is perfectly suited for that individual. So, if you've never seen an angel, don't be discouraged. They are there, working on your behalf, whether you can see them or not. And if you've been blessed with visions or spiritual encounters, remember that these gifts are not meant to make you feel special, but to help you encourage others and share God's love. In the end, what matters most is not whether we can see angels, but that we know and trust in God, the one who sends them. Because each of us, whether we realize it or not, is part of His great plan, watched over and cared for with a love deeper and more real than anything we can imagine. And that, my friends, is the most wonderful discovery of all. Share your thoughts below in the comments, or let us know where you're listening from, so that at the very least God knows this message has reached His children. And don't forget to hit subscribe to continue journeying with eternal Bible stories, where true testimonies are shared not just to be heard, but to heal and bring you closer to God. Thank you for listening. May this truth remain in your heart, and may the grace of God guide your steps from this moment on.